interview with Dominic Frisby, comedian, writer, actor, presenter, trader.
Yeah.
That's an interesting sort of collection of roles. So just talk a bit about how you got into this.
Like most things in life, it wasn't planned. It all kind of happened by accident or organically, or however you put it. But I was quite happily chugging along as a kind of writer, comedian, writer, performer through the 90s and through the noughties. And then in about 2006, I had a bit of money and I wasn't sure where to invest it. And so I didn't really want to hand the money over to a financial advisor. I wanted to manage it myself, and I started reading voraciously, and I came across gold as an investment, and it seemed to make a lot of sense at the time. And so I put pretty much everything I owned into gold, and gold's a very political investment. I didn't realise it at the time, but it opens up all sorts of political discussion, and I started reading all about that, things like sound money and government spending and deficits and all this stuff I knew nothing about, and just became utterly hooked on it, so that by about mid-2007 I was convinced some kind of huge crash was coming. I was absolutely right in that regard. I didn't make as much money out of it as I should have done, but nevertheless I was right, and gold carried on going up and up and up. And I had a podcast. I'd started a podcast. I had a background in voiceovers, and there were all these interesting people on the internet, and I wanted to meet them and hear what they had to say. And so I started this podcast as a kind of vehicle to get to know and meet people. And the podcast was very popular. I asked questions, ordinary questions that lay people would ask, and so I think that attracted a lot of listeners to the show. And as a result of the podcast, one of the people I interviewed was a lady called Merrin Somerset Webb, who's the editor of Money Week, and she said, "Will you come and write for Money Week?" And I said yes. And so just one thing kind of led to the other, and then from writing for Money Week, then I wrote this first book, Life After the State, all about the way the state works and how we can fix everything with sound money. And then the logical extension to that was to write about Bitcoin, this new revolutionary disruptive money, and I wrote a book about that. And I think it's probably the first book on Bitcoin by a proper recognised publisher. There's now been, I think there's something like 200 books on Bitcoin out there now, but mine is undoubtedly the best. This is the definitive, not only the definitive book on Bitcoin, but the definitive book.
The Bible?
No, it's better than the Bible. Far more readable.
All right. So you kind of fell into trading then? I mean, because it's one thing trading gold, it's one thing writing about it.
Yeah, two very different skills. And in fact, in my head, I try not to let what I'm writing impinge on what I'm trading, because one thing I've found, when you write about something, it's really good if you have a strong opinion. Readers, if you kind of go, oh, well, it could go up, it could go down, it's kind of pretty boring copy, and readers want leaders, and they want definite answer. And but if you go into trading with a very kind of dogmatic set view about what's going to happen, that's pretty fatal. And so there's a definite divergence there, and I try and wear my writing hat and put forward provocative and strong opinion, and then and if I go, well, it could go up, could go down, my editor gets very cross with me. But I'm well aware, for example, gold, now I think, the stage is set for gold to have a huge rally. It should be, that wasn't me, that must have been you. I think the stage is set for gold to have a huge rally, and there's all sorts of reasons why gold should be going up, but the reality is it isn't. It's been in a bear market for 3.5, 4 years, and now it's completely flat. So if I impose my kind of my political views on my trading views, I'd lose a lot of money. And people do lose money that way. So, like I say, you have to separate the two. You have to be very open-minded. Funnily enough, what's the Templeton, Sir John Templeton, one of the most successful investors of all time, made his fortune when he left the city, and he basically invested from a beach somewhere in the Caribbean, and all he would do is, I think he just read the papers every day just to check the share prices. This is back in the 70s when obviously we didn't have the same, and just did all his investing there with an open mind. And I think for me, I like charts. I use charts a great deal. And if you just look at the chart, you can almost look at the chart and not know what you're trading. And so you go into it with no bias whatsoever. Whereas if you start thinking, oh, that's the US dollar and Obama just said this, then you start carrying biases, and it's important not to have any of those things, I find.
Okay. So you don't have a degree in economics, so is everything self-taught?
Everything economic and financial is pretty much self-taught, and I'm a big believer in self-education. Often what you're taught at school and university is wrong. A lot of the syllabus that we're taught at school is for another age. It's for the industrial age. It's irrelevant to the world in which we live. If they were teaching things that were related to the world in which we live, there'd be much more teaching, there'd be much more creative writing and all that kind of things, big industry. You're just not taught that at school beyond the age of about 11. So I'm a big believer in self-education. The best way to learn anything is on the job. Losing money is they call it paid tuition. It's very good tuition, losing money, and we all lose money. I'm talking about specifically about financial stuff, and also specifically about economics. There's a big gulf between economics as it's taught in universities and the real world. And one of the famous things after the 2008 crash is the Queen was talking to a bunch of economists, and she's kind of said, how did none of you see this coming? And because they all had conventional economic backgrounds, and they've got a very rigid way of looking at the world, and we all suffer from all sorts of biases and mental things and tunnel vision and all the rest of it. But the fact is they missed it, and it goes back to my original point that what is taught in schools and universities is often irrelevant and to the world in which we live. So it's going to university is very useful. You meet a lot of people, you make a lot of friends, you make a lot of contacts. It puts you on a certain path, and if you want to go through companies and make your way up that way, but if you want to trade money and earn money as a spread better at home, you may as well just learn spread betting and trading. You don't need to go to university. Go and do a course.
You need to have personality traits. What do you think of that? What makes an interest? What makes a successful trader?
As little personality as possible. I'm serious. You want to have no opinion, no emotion, nothing. You want to be just flat and emotionless, and whatever system works, just trade that system and take yourself right out of it. That again comes back to my earlier point about writing. Writing, you want character, you want strong opinion. Trading, you don't want anything.